Hello, we're back again on Lutherans Alive with Melissa Stobert at St. John's, social worker at St. John's Mars and a member of St. Paul's Lutheran Church in Sarver. Melissa, we really do appreciate you taking the time to come in and talk with us about helping to understand a difficult illness like Alzheimer's and the continuum of care, I guess, as we go through that experience, either as an individual or a family member. I guess before the break we were talking a bit about in the institutionalization process, the ways that a social worker can be involved in the life of the individual as well as the family. And we want to pick up with that continuing care, that the family member seeing their loved one move from home to a place like St. John's. What would you say are the challenges or the opportunities for families dealing with a family member that's been moved to an institution like St. John's?
Well, I think that one of the biggest things that a caregiver is experiencing is guilt. And certainly that is a normal feeling to have when you've placed someone in a long-term care facility. However, it's important to know that you've made the right decision in placing someone in long-term care. We can provide the services that you would hope to be able to provide in your own home. And our goal is to give families some peace of mind. I tell families our job is to allow you as the caregiver to go home and enjoy your life, excuse me, and feel confident that your mom, your dad, your spouse is receiving good care. Mm-hmm. And at the moment that you aren't feeling like that, you aren't feeling that you can go about your life, then something's wrong. Mm-hmm. So, that's why we are there, so that the folks living in the community can continue to maintain a good quality of life while we're providing a good environment and a good quality of life for their loved one in the nursing home.
Mm-hmm. I guess for some folks who have gone through a particularly difficult stretch before institutionalization can feel a little more free or a little more relieved that the care is there and that the burden is off them. But I guess there's always that nagging doubt or that feeling or question in our minds. Did we do the right thing or is it enough?
Right. And another important thing for a caregiver to understand is that even though they've made that decision to place someone in long-term care, they are still the primary caregiver. They know their loved one better than we ever will. So we rely on the family members to let us know if they are noticing something different that they haven't seen before or if they have a concern. Their role in their loved one's life, even though they're in a nursing home, is still very important, and we respect that.
And speaking of that continuing being the caregiver, we were talking off camera for a bit about some of the legal documents that are helpful and very useful to have in place even before placement in an institution. Could we talk about those for just a couple of minutes, like the living will
right.
and power of attorney?
Right, both two very important things to have in place. Unfortunately, too often individuals come into a nursing home and they haven't completed a living will, or perhaps there isn't a family member acting as their agent. And that can make things quite difficult. So my suggestion and my recommendation would be, while your loved ones are still home and healthy, sit down with them and talk with them about what their wishes are. Trying to make a decision for someone is very difficult, even if it is a parent that you think that since you've known them all your life. It is a very difficult decision when you're making those life or death decisions. And how easy is it if they've already spelled that out for you? Mm-hmm. So a living will becomes extremely important as the population ages. And it's something that is very important for you to sit down with your family and talk about. Power of attorney, the same thing. It's much simpler for your loved one to make a decision as to who they want to be to act on their behalf and make their decisions than it is down the road when maybe they don't have the capacity to do that and you're seeking guardianship for someone. Mm-hmm. It's also much less expensive to, look into power of attorney versus guardianship. So the living will and the power of attorney are certainly two things that you want to do early on. You want to, consider those documents before someone becomes incapacitated, while they're still able to make decisions and make choices about their life.
And the reality of life is that sometimes we don't want to have to think about those things, or we feel like it's wishful thinking. We're wishing something on our elderly parents if we bring up those subjects. But they really do, as you say, come in as very important and very useful, having them in place when the right time comes.
And it's much simpler on, especially children. You have one child that feels one way and another child that feels another way, which can cause some difficulty. So to have that document already available, and you can just say, Mom wanted this, makes things much easier.
Yeah. And one of the other things we want to make sure that we get a chance to talk about before the end of the program today is one of the aspects or pieces of the quality of life for a person as they continue in a home is the spiritual aspect. We know that there are a lot of different perspectives that different people have about their spiritual lives and what place of importance it holds for a person. But we were also talking a bit earlier about the importance of that spiritual peace for a person as they live in those difficult and challenging times. Could you say a little bit about that?
Absolutely. When you look at the quality of life of our elderly population and those living in a nursing home, one of the biggest factors that contributes to them having a good quality of life is their spirituality and the facility's ability to continue to provide opportunity for our residents to participate in church services, hymn singing, communion. And I think that we do a very good job of that. I had mentioned earlier, as the disease progresses with Alzheimer's, you may not be able to, piece together a sentence, but when that hymn is played, that church hymn, sure as shooting, those residents are going to be singing, beginning to end, word for word. That's right. So very important piece of their continued quality of life, without a doubt.
Yeah. I've noticed that with folks, things like the Lord's Prayer.
The Lord's Prayer,
the Ten Commandments, things that we've memorized and, as you say, are very, very deep in our memories and in our consciousness are the things that to the very end seem to be there.
They do, and I tell a story. When I first started at St. John, there was a woman who did not verbalize maybe a yes or a no, but if someone sat with her and prayed the Lord's Prayer, she knew every single word, and she said it as clear as day. So it still strikes a chord.
Well, Melissa, we've actually come to the end of our time today. We've really enjoyed this opportunity to talk, and although we've talked in the context of one particular illness with Alzheimer's, I think we've learned a lot about care for our elderly and some of those important pieces of giving care in those times, and you've really helped us a lot with it. Great. Thanks so much for being here.
You're welcome.
Today.
Glad to be here today.
We really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for being with us today on Lutherans Alive. We hope you've enjoyed this opportunity to walk through a difficult time in life and to gain some insight and some perspectives on caregiving for those that we know and love all our lives. Until next time, this is Lutherans Alive. Good day, and God bless you.